Neck-throughs, guitars, they're like a guy that you won't have a beer with you.
I want to hear what's pushing the notes.
Freddie King and B.B. King, Albert King, and let's not forget Burger King.
I don't want to blow my knuckle out.
Stainless steel is the work of the devil.
These go to 11.
From the East Amplification Tone Labs in Baltimore, Maryland, it's the Amps and Axes Show with your hosts, Jeff the Godfather of Low Wattage Amps Bober and Mick Marcelino.
Well, good day to you, Mr. Bober.
Good day to you, Mr. Marcelino. How be thy?
Oh.
How be thyself?
How be thy? Well, you got to play the new SG.
Dude.
You gotta give your comments on that, huh?
Props.
What is that?
That is one really, really sweet playing guitar.
I'll throw some. I'm not going to be narcissistic, but I'll throw some pictures.
No, you should. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's
Yeah.
black. And you got the special. It's a 61 reissue, right? But you got the special edition or something.
It was okay. So in 2007, I guess Gibson ran the Guitar of the Month for the entire year, and there was like showcase guitars, and they had a limited run. It's basically to generate revenue. So that one was one of 400. I don't really care about that part. And they called it Antique Black. It's painted black, and then what they did was they yellowed the binding, and they used one of like the VOS tips from
on the switch tip.
Of course, they switched out the chrome hardware for gold, and then they did something to the what is it, mother of pearl, abalone, whatever it is, up at the
logo, the Gibson logo.
Yeah, and the little flower pot thing.
Yeah,
they made it gold.
Yeah, but it's not gaudy gold. It's really pretty. It's
like,
almost like gold abalone,
like it's aged.
Yeah.
So I guess they kind of, but there's no relicking on the guitar.
No, and I like that. I like it. It looks old, but it doesn't look beat up.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it was carried behind a car.
Right. No, it's in pristine shape, man.
Yeah,
and I like the black finish a lot. I'm not a big fan of gold hardware, but it looks really, really great on that guitar.
I don't know why.
It's just, I don't know, something about it's done right. It's not gaudy. It's not too shiny. The body is glossy, but not too shiny.
I think the knobs being black maybe deters from too much gold. Is what I'm thinking. I don't know. But I do agree. And not just because it's my guitar. I looked at it and I'm not a guy that goes for the gold hardware, but I was like, that's not bad looking. That's okay.
No,
I'm
it
okay
looks
with
really
it.
pretty, and it plays much better than it looks. It looks beautiful, and it plays 10 times better than it looks.
Yeah.
It's really, it's one of the most really familiar feeling necks.
Yeah.
Even though I don't own a guitar with a neck like that on it, I don't know why. I picked it up, and it just felt so comfortable.
Yeah, they definitely did. Like you said, they flattened the back out of it on the neck a little bit or something.
It's a little flatter on the back. The fretboard seems a little wider. Just
Yeah, I might have to mic that just to see what it is, because it should be 1 11/16, and it just doesn't feel like that. It feels like it's a little bit wider.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe does it have a larger radius? Is it a little bit flatter?
No, it's 12.
That's 12.
That's 12.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really don't, because we
and it's
right
not even
after
compound.
Right after that we picked up my RO,
which is supposedly the same thing.
That neck is like noticeably different, is it not?
Yeah, it's definitely different. I mean, it has something to do with the shoulders and that back. There's something.
Yeah.
I don't know what they did. Now, I don't know. Here's the thing about Gibson. Gibson, everything's made by machine, but there is this process where the necks are a lot of handwork to go into them. They don't round the shoulders of the neck. They don't round the fingerboard like it's been played. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of hand process, even down to where the tendon goes into the neck. They really work that by hand. And that's just because you got to have some kind of give for the glue. And that's why, so I don't know. Maybe they... I would have to play
Don't look
another
to
one.
explain it. All I know is you got a nice one.
Yeah.
You got a really nice one.
Well, I told you that thing kind of came to me because I was looking at guitars and it just was there, and I was like, I got to jump on this. Mm-hmm. It was one of those things.
Yeah.
So,
now it's now. I was talking about selling my RO, and this has probably brought me a little bit closer to being sure that I want to, because I don't have a guitar that feels like this. It plays fast. I mean, I'm not a fast player.
Well, you know,
like
that,
in the mode of like really fast players.
Yeah.
But this neck is a fast neck,
and that was Gibson's. That was their selling point to the SG, the fastest neck in the world. That the ads used to read that.
I don't remember.
So, but that was the 61. See, that's when they stopped making the Les Paul. That was the Les Paul, but it was not a Les Paul. It was SG,
which was solid guitar.
Yes, and but they touted that the fastest neck in the world.
Well, this one seems to live up to it.
And I'm wondering if other 61 reissues have that same profile, because that would be kind of the test, right?
Yeah, and I'm going to look around and see if there's any in local stores and just go play them. I'm really, really curious at this point.
Yeah, I'm too, because when I got it, I was like, I still feel like a Gibson. I'm used to that 59 profile, and that's considerably different.
Yeah, it's very different, but it's different than my 60 too. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I don't know. Don't overthink it. You got a really, really good one, man. Enjoy the hell out of it.
Oh,
I know
yeah.
I would.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. You pick it up and you automatically start playing AC/DC. I don't know why.
And we haven't had a chance to plug it in yet, but you said the pickups sound really good too.
Yeah. They're basically PAFs.
Nice.
Their design. Mm-hmm. I mean, Gibson. It's their design,
right?
Hey, we made some
PAFs.
Yeah. So, but on a little bit of a sadder note, we didn't cover this last time, but Jack Bruce passed away.
Yes, we did not cover it.
And when it comes to bass players, it's funny because we all have that guy we know. You got the Billy Sheehan's, the Steve Harris. Sorry.
Okay.
And then you got all the guys that like was it Jocko?
Oh yeah.
And you can get into some really eclectic dudes that everybody knows.
Stanley Clark, who was like different than any other bass player, because he played that piccolo bass, but exactly. I love Stanley Clark.
Yeah, and but they never really get the due. Mm-hmm. You got Geddy Lee, you got guys like that. I mean, they're exceptional musicians. Well, good bass players, I guess you never know them.
He was a really good bass player, but he was a really good vocalist. I loved his voice, and a great composer.
Yeah.
He was just an all-around great musician. He just happened to get famous playing bass with Cream.
Yes.
And vocal. I loved his vocals.
I forgot one, John Paul Jones.
Oh yeah,
probably
absolutely.
One of the most, and of course Paul
and
McCartney.
Whistle. And Whistle,
yes. But McCartney too.
Yeah.
Paul McCartney's one of those guys. He's sort of like a stealth fighter. You go, something just passed us at 600 miles an hour, but I don't know what it was.
This is really interesting because I'm just putting together the Beatles band this year for the Come Together benefit.
Yes.
And I have a fantastic local bass player on bass for me, Jay Turner. You probably know Jay.
I know Jay.
Yeah. And he I asked him. He said, "Yeah, I want to do it." I said, "Well, you probably know all the stuff, right?" He said, "No, I don't know any Beatle material, and I never liked it. I never liked it." And I went, "Why?" He said, he started telling me the whole story. I don't want to go too long here. He said, "But then I started listening to it again at some point and realizing what a really unique bass player McCartney was."
Guy was all over the place too.
Yeah, but I said, "Well, yeah, he plays bass like a guitar player." And Jay's I always used to say that, and Jay's the first person that smacked me down for that. He said, no. He plays, and Jay obviously has a lot of knowledge of classical music and theory and everything. Uh-huh. He said, no, he plays like a second chair oboe.
Or like
player.
A cello, maybe?
Second chair cello or oboe or whatever he said, because it's not, they don't concentrate on the root.
Oh.
They're kind of dancing around melody and harmony and things like that, and that's what Macca's bass playing was like. I never really realized that. I just thought he was a little busier. He was playing like a guitar player that picked up a bass, and No, he was much more knowledgeable in theory than I ever knew, and Jay just turned me on to that. So
Wow.
But back to Jack Bruce, fantastic composer, and also into major theory.
Absolutely amazing bass player.
Yeah.
When you listen to some of that classic stuff, you just go, okay. Yeah, like, what do you do?
Well, that's why those kind of three pieces sounded so big.
It was a bass player kicking ass.
Right. He's playing root. He's playing everything around it. And I loved his vocals. Bass playing and vocal, two of my favorites, Jack Bruce and Felix Pappalardi. Without a doubt.
Yes.
Yeah. And both of those guys now are gone.
Yeah.
Felix way too early, but yeah, Jack was 71.
We'll have to talk to Leslie about Felix.
Yeah, he.
I'm sure he had a run in or two.
He has not much good to say about Felix's wife. But anyway, R.I.P. Jack, and join the big band in the sky, man, and show them how it's done.
Yeah, man.
So
it's kind of weird when all the heroes start to go.
True.
But it's a generation. It's entire generations of guys that are getting to that point.
Right.
And it's kind of freaky, because then it's like you start looking on yourself and you go, whoa, where's the finish line? Because
stop it. But it was really cool. Actually, I was watching a Deep Purple video the other day, and what's cool about a lot of these guys, and there's another one, both of their bass players,
Glenn Hughes.
Yeah, right. I can't remember is it Roger? Brain fart. Anyway,
I'll get it. You keep talking.
Okay. A lot of these guys, like both the stacks on both sides of the stage, were all Marshall. Like a lot of these guys were using just Marshall tube, quote unquote, bass amps back in the day, which had just a few components different than the super lead.
Roger Glover.
Thank you. I only had half a brain fart there.
That's good. Well, Lemmy.
Mm-hmm.
Lemmy he's not. People go, oh my God, Lemmy, you're going to put him in. No, Lemmy is an icon. I mean, the guy's
absolutely
literally an icon at what he does. And they built a bass amp. I think it's called the General or something like that.
Signature amp for him. Yeah, I saw it a few years ago at NAMM. It's like monster cabinets.
It's like 1,000 watts of tube power and just crazy. But yeah, the Marshalls were big back then for bass guys.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And then of course Ampeg.
Yeah, Ampeg and
Sun.
Sun after that.
Acoustic?
Glenn Hughes. Well, even before acoustic, Glenn Hughes.
Laney.
High Watt.
Yes,
High Watt.
And Laney. He's
Laney,
a big Laney guy.
But
Black Sabbath. There's another one.
Oh, yeah.
Geezer Butler.
Yeah.
He's another really good
icons.
And it's basically a three-piece band if you think about it, right? You got Tony on guitar.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right. And there's some vocalist out front, but
So we've covered a lot of bass players. See, this is the thing. You don't think of them, and then when you start talking about them, they just start falling out of the woodwork.
Right.
There's a lot of great, especially rock bass players. I mean, of course, you got to kind of dig a little bit if you don't know them right off bat. But like Steve Harris, I mean, that guy is Iron Maiden. Mm-hmm. The guy writes most of the music for Iron Maiden. And yeah, it's a different style of music. It's metal in almost, I don't know what kind of sense you would call it, almost classical type, without the Yngwie side.
Right.
But, the guy's a machine. I mean, Steve.
See, a lot of these guys are overlooked, and people don't realize how much input they actually have into the band, into the music.
But I think that's a
comes
good
out of the
bass
band.
player. I think a guy that you don't know is a good bass player. Now, see, Billy Sheehan, he's great, but he's a ton of flash. It's hands over top of hands. It's a lot of tapping. It's a lot of
harmonics,
almost guitar bending notes and everything else.
Right.
But then you had a guy like John Entwistle who was just like, there was so much going on underneath.
Yeah.
And when you watch the guy, you're going, oh my God.
And it's effortless.
But it was not in your face.
No, but it was such an integral part of why that band sounded like it sounded.
Oh my God. They couldn't have done half the stuff they did.
All of those three pieces, because I consider that a three-piece band too.
Absolutely.
Of course,
Yeah.
All of those three pieces. A bass player that is just filling in so perfectly that he's not overplaying, yet the band would suck without him. You know, that's a good bass player.
Yes,
you know?
it is.
That's a good bass player.
Could you imagine the freedom? Well, you do, because you play with Dave DeMarco. And Dave is one of those bass players. He is very exceptional. He is. That freedom must be very, just, you don't have any thought. Like, it's just, okay, I can just do what I got to do.
There is nothing better in the world than having a fantastic rhythm section behind you.
Yeah, because then it's just carte blanche.
Right.
You can just, if you want to, if you want to do whatever, you can just kind of throw a little niche here or there, whatever. You're not going to lose the guy on the back end.
Right.
He's not going to come apart. That's for sure.
A good rhythm section, it just carries things so much that you can just weave in and out of it, and it's still a real cohesive thing, you know.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
And you sent me that mail the other day. I want to bring this up because you mentioned it right before we started. Was they were asking Yngwie Malmsteen the questions.
Oh yeah. It was like quick questions and quick answers with Yngwie.
It was like what was it? It was like Tony Iommi or Eddie Van Halen. He said Eddie.
Right.
It was this guy or that guy, and he said that guy.
Hendrix or Page or something like that.
Hendrix or Page. He said Hendrix.
Right.
And then they did something else, and he went back to Hendrix. And then they said, what was the last one?
They asked me.
Led Zeppelin?
Jimi Hendrix or Led Zeppelin? I said Deep Purple. That was hilarious.
Yes, and big Blackmore fan, obviously. Mm-hmm. And
as am I.
Just real quick, so then I started searching on YouTube.
Okay.
And there was some people that had that played with Richie and had some opinions, and everybody it was so funny because obviously. He's Richie, and he kind of puts it black and white, I think, to a lot of people. And in the music world, sometimes that rubs people the wrong way.
Yeah, well, I always thought that he was never the easiest to get along with, but
Ronnie James Dio goes, he's an exceptional musician. Oh, he's a jerk as a human being. He goes, but as a musician, I've never worked with anybody better. He goes, but I would never invite this guy. I mean, it was so funny, and God bless Ronnie because he was one of those guys. Right. But it was so funny the way he put it, and I thought, and it was funny because they were talking to Yngwie, and they even got more in depth with Richie, and he goes, "Well, yeah, more power to him if he's liking what he's doing." And then they show a picture, a video of him, and it's like Renaissance Festival.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
he's up there with his guitar, doing his thing.
Yeah, he's into like Ren music.
Yeah,
now.
It's like he stepped back in the 18th century or something. Yeah. But hey, like you said,
Blackmore's Knight.
Yes, he's
Blackmore's Knight.
He's like Yngwie said, more power to him. Hey,
absolutely.
It's music, man. You do what you can do, or what you want to do.
Well, at this point, it's what you want to do, and he just wants to bring something different to the table. So he was one of my tone mainstays back in the day. Him and Leslie were the two tones that they were so perfect.
Richie Blackmore is the epitome of rock tone.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, that voicing, to take a Stratocaster without humbuckers in it and do what that guy did.
Single coils and a couple of Marshall 100 watts.
Yeah.
And
I mean, even Hendrix wasn't doing that with fuzz pedals.
Right.
And we'll have to have a discussion about him one day.
It's in the fingers, man. It's in the fingers.
You think?
Yeah. But speaking of Marshalls.
Hey, look at that.
Speaking of Marshalls.
These goddamn segues get better every week.
We have a guest coming up today that a lot of people may not know. They may know him more recently because he just started his own amp line. But he was an integral part of Marshall for decades.
Yeah.
For decades. And now has his own thing going on, plus resurrected something that's another amp line that's very cool. So we're going to bring in somebody that I've known for more than a couple of years, and we'll see where he came from. So without further ado, we're going to bring you Mr. Mitch Colby.
This is Dwight Maddox with MDX Guitars and Cowboy Mouth, and you're listening to Amps and Axes.
And as promised. Mitch Colby. Don't get me started, son.
I'm sorry.
Don't get me started. Mitch, how are you, my friend?
Jeff, how are you?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. Thank you for taking the time. I know you're a busy guy.
Yeah, and this has been a crazy week, so I'm glad to be here, though. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, our pleasure, man. Our pleasure. You're, for me, you're kind of an icon in the industry. So, we love having people like that on the show. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm blushing.
Well, we can't see it because we're only doing Skype audio. So,
I have a new SG that needs to go through one of those amps. You know what I mean?
One of the old ones.
Cool.
Yeah, yeah. So what have you been up to lately? Any new toys?
Well, yeah. In fact, that's why today was so crazy. I drove a couple of hours up to somebody's house where I met, and I just picked up a beautiful, really beat up, no finish 57 Telly. And I'm like totally stoked.
Wow, those are the best kind, man. The ones that are rode hard and hung up wet, because they were played a lot, and they were played a lot because they were good guitars. It's just like amps, like old amps that are pristine and everything.
Something wrong.
They were in the closet or under the bed somewhere or stored somewhere in the attic.
Exactly.
And because people plugged into them and went, yeah, it doesn't really sound that good, and just went and bought another amp. The ones that are really beat to hell, those are the good ones.
And a piece of wood from 57, that's acclimated.
A little bit,
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah, and the neck's not going anywhere. It's already gone.
Yeah, that's awesome.
This thing is pretty cool. And here's a funny thing that's also happened. It didn't have the original bridge pickup, which is really important. And the guy is an interesting guy. And when I got there today, he goes, "Oh, look what I found in another case."
Oh, my God.
Really?
And there it was, and that sealed the deal.
Wow. Very nice. Well, I know you're going to have a long night tonight because you're not going to be able to put that down for a few hours.
Oh, yeah. We're here. We're going to put new strings on it and put that pickup in and
awesome.
see what it sounds like. So, yeah. And I'm here with the Telemaster, so there you go.
True. And we'll get to him in a few. But, if a lot of people don't know the name Mitch Colby, they, as I alluded to before, they will now because he just started his own line of amplifiers after all these years, and we'll get into them. But Mitch, Mitch was a bigwig in Korg Marshall for decades, and been there for quite a while. And I want to get a little background from Mitch as to when he started and how he got into it. First, how did you get into playing, or were you even playing when you went to work for Korg Marshall, or was that a corporate gig and then you started playing, or what was the little history on Mitch Colby here? Let me give a little history here.
Well, the little history is little Mitch started playing guitar after he saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, like a lot of other people.
Awesome.
And I got an SG when I was 13, and I still have that guitar.
Wow.
It's a 1966.
Wow.
Hold on one sec. And so I've been playing. I played in bands. I listened to. I happened to play with older players back then, and they got me into blues and brought me in. I lived in the Bronx, and we used to go into Manhattan, and we'd see Buddy Guy and B.B. King and Albert King, and they took me to hear all these great blues players, and that's what I got into. And then Eric Clapton with the Blues Breakers. So that was my beginning, really. And then, of course, Hendrix came along, and Jimmy Page and Jack and all these guys. And that's what I was into till I was about 19. And then I got sidetracked. I heard an album of Jimmy Smith, because I played a little keyboards too. Oh. Then I heard Kenny Burrell and Wes Montgomery, and I kind of liked that. So I had no clue what they were doing or how to play like that. And then I was in college at the time, and I was in engineering, and I said, this is not really for me. It's too hard. And,
was college too hard, or playing jazz too hard?
Both. So
both.
So I changed my major to music, and they sent me. My major was jazz guitar. So
wow.
They sent me for lessons with Barry Galbraith, who was one of the top studio guys in New York at the time and before. And I really got into that. And then I played around town and did a lot of club gigs and weddings and all kinds of different things. And I was basically a musician at the time. And then when I got out, I used to go down to Electro Harmonics on 23rd Street to buy pedals.
Yeah.
Because they would sell direct to consumers. So they would sell seconds. They had a case there, a glass case with, maybe 6 or 7 pedals that was scratched, and you could buy it at a discounted price direct from them.
Wow.
So one day they said, hey, you here for the interview? And I said, what interview? They said, well, we need somebody to test pedals. I said, yeah, I am here for the interview.
Damn right I am.
They said, well, this is what you got to do. We'll wheel in about 100 small stones or little muffs or big muff pies or whatever, and you check them out and make sure they work, and then somebody will take them out and we'll box them up and ship them out.
Wow.
So I said, well, I could do that. And they said, okay, you're hired. I did that for about 3 months, and then a guy I knew worked for Unicord, who was a distributor of Korg and Marshall. Mm-hmm. And we had done a couple of dates together, and they were looking for a guitar player as a product specialist to go around and demo products. And he recommended me, and that seemed like a better gig than working for Electro Harmonics testing pedals out.
Wow.
So I went for that job interview and got that. So I did that for a couple of years. I went around the country demoing products and, Marshall amps, and we had Westbury amps and guitars at the time. And
I was going to ask you if you were involved with Unicord or GW or whatever it was called back in the day. So you do go back that far with them.
Yep, 1978 I was hired, and
wow.
It was Unicord. It was a division of Gulf and Western, which had nothing to do with Gulf Oil. Mm-hmm. And Gulf and Western was a big conglomerate, and they had tons of companies which got broken up later. And when that happened in 1985, Korg bought the company. So we were distributing Korg, and then kind of a management team. At the time, I was product manager for all the guitar products. And we kind of put a management team together and went to Korg and said, hey, here's your opportunity. You could buy this company out and we'll help you manage it. And we can bring Marshall along, and because Jim Marshall agreed to do it. And that's kind of how Korg USA started.
Wow.
That is crazy.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that was an established Japanese company for a long time, right?
Oh, yeah. Korg was doing really well in Japan. Well, they hadn't made it as big as they did later, because the thing that put Korg on the map, really, as a real professional company, was the Poly 6. It was similar to the Sequential Circuits Prophet, but it was 40% of the price. The Prophet was like a $5,000 programmable synthesizer, and the Poly 6 was, I think, $2,000 at the time. Of course, the Poly 6 wasn't as good as the Prophet in terms of sound, and I guess quality, maybe not, but it was something people could afford at the time.
Right.
And that put Korg on the map. And so, yeah, that's how and that was right before we started the company in 85.
Wow.
And and we had a guitar synth. So back to when I was demonstrating, I would go around the country with this monophonic guitar synthesizer that you really had to play carefully because it didn't track that well. Mm-hmm. Sometimes how an octave pedal doesn't track so well, but this was 10 times worse. But since I had studied jazz, I had a pretty clean style, so I could demo it, and some people could play it, some couldn't. Mm-hmm. We sold a lot of them. It's called the X911.
Oh, nice. Wow. And because you had a nice clean jazz style, you made it sound better than most people could make it sound, I'm sure.
Well, not if you hear the demo record. Don't go look for it. It's embarrassing.
But it got the job done.
So that was then. Like I said, I became product manager. Then when Korg bought the company, they were nice enough to promote me to vice president of the guitar products. And then I was there a long time. I was involved mostly in product development and marketing.
Wow.
And then at the end, when I left, which was 2010, I was executive vice president. I had been for 2 years. And then that was it. 32 years with pretty much the same company.
Wow.
Yeah. I told you he's been in the industry for a very, very long time.
That's like an episode of Seinfeld when like Kramer got that job and he's like he just walked in. You know, the guy comes in. You here for the job interview? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing.
Right. Man.
Well, the one when the Seinfeld episode with George, when the boss walks in and said, "How long you been here?" I was away for a week. You didn't do anything. He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I have a feeling you don't know what the hell you're doing." He goes, "You're right. I think I'm going to leave now." It took them 32 years to figure that out.
Oh, come on, man. You knew exactly what you were doing.
Wow.
Yeah, that's.
I gotta say, for a musician who likes gear, it was an unbelievable ride. Because I was, we were the Marshall distributor for 30 of those 32 years. And in 1992, Korg bought their distributor in the UK who owned Vox, and they weren't doing much with it. So we got that, and I took that by the reins, really, and forced that issue through. And then everybody came along, and we brought Vox back from the dead.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Obviously, you met Jim Marshall. Right.
Well, a couple of times.
Now, I mean, obviously, you're working for the company, I would think. I mean, was he like everybody says he was? Just an awesome guy. That basically stumbled upon this thing that changed the world.
You mean Ken Brand's design?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Leo Fender's design.
Right. There you go.
Well. He was an awesome guy in many, many ways. He was the most hospitable guy I ever met. I mean, I used to go there twice a year, 3 times a year for almost 30 years. So I spent a lot of time with Jim, and he used to come to the NAMM shows, and we used to travel around sometimes to visit dealers, and he always treated everybody great. And he loved the business. He loved being the center of attention because people always wanted his autograph. It was his business. So when you say, he stumbled upon it or lucky, yeah, maybe there's some of that. But, he was the driving force, man. He got those guys to make a product that people wanted. And he always listened to the customers. And if they said, "Hey, Jim, you should make a smaller amp, an 18 watt or this or that," he would have his guys do it. And, he would be involved and he'd listen. And, whether he wasn't a guitar player, but if the kids liked it, he made it. So he did the right things, and he loved it. So
hey Jim, you should make a cabinet with 8 12-inch speakers in it.
We made 4 of those for a NAMM show when we reissued the JTM 45-100 head.
Wow!
And 2 of those went back to the UK. 2 went to Korg USA, and when I left in 2010, they gave me one as a going-away present.
Are you kidding?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
I have that, and I have the plexiglass see-through JTM 45 offset that we did for the NAMM show.
Wow.
Now, is that the 45 watt or is that the 100? That's the 45.
That's the 45.
Yeah. Now, the 100 is the one with 2 output transformers, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. I saw that when I was at NAMM when that was when they brought that out, and it was like, wow, did the original one have this? He went, yeah, the original one was like this.
That is crazy. Now, did they give you 2 guys to carry that cabinet for you?
You can have it, but you got to get it out of here yourself.
Yeah, that's what happened. They said, well, I used to keep my amp collection at Korg USA.
Wow.
I had about 40 of my vintage amps. That's from my whole collection out there. And I had to figure out a place to put them when I left. And they gave me that and a couple of other amps that they didn't want, some other vintage things that were really cool. And because they weren't interested in it. And at that point, we were no longer the Marshall distributor. So, and there was nobody else there who really cared about this stuff. So they gave me all the vintage stuff.
That's crazy.
Then they said, "Okay, you can borrow the van, do what you want with all this stuff. Just get it out of here."
Man, can you imagine that? Yeah, we're no longer distributing Marshall, so yeah, just get this junk out of here.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you some of the stuff I got. I got that. I got a Park 75 that used to belong to George Lynch.
And we'll get into that in a minute.
I got a Marshall Major from Richie Blackmore's Tech.
Oh,
but he took the mod out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's. I don't know if you know Doc John Stillwell.
No, not personally. No.
Okay, he's Richie Blackmore's tech, and also Man of War. I don't know if you know those guys. They're still around in upstate New York.
Yeah.
And really smart guy. And he used to mod old Richie Blackmore's amps. And he once sent me a picture of the mod. I mean, he won't show anybody, he won't let you know what it is, but he sent me a picture of it, and I couldn't figure out what he was doing.
Really?
It's insane. He's got all kinds of stuff in there that you'd never expect from, different, like he's got ham radio technology in a preamp. It's really weird, but it sounds amazing.
He probably did the Eddie Van Halen thing. Eddie was always trying to turn the corner, so he didn't want people mocking, and mimicking his guitar. So if you look at some of the old pictures, there's a 5-way where the middle pickup was, and there was a single coil that looked like it was burnt beyond belief. Dead. And it was nothing.
Right, nothing.
So he probably threw a bunch of wires in there.
and then he told everybody that he used the Variac and put it up to 140 volts.
Right.
So they blow up their amps.
Right. Yeah, I have a friend that's dead convinced that there was in that rack full of Marshalls that he ran normal voltage or maybe a little bit low. There was a distortion plus in the back and stuck in that rack somewhere, painted black, and it was just in there, and that was Eddie, And I kind of believe it, but But that's crazy. We're gonna have to talk some more, Mitch. But anyway,
so here's another aside. While we were mentioning Doc. I think he's the reason why the Marshalls in the U.S. had 6550s in them.
I thought it was a reliability issue.
Well, he used to work for Macintosh.
Okay.
And he some of those big Macs had KT88s in them. Mm-hmm. So he was familiar with really hefty tubes. Yeah. And I think he was the one to recommend to Unicord to use 6550s.
Oh, yeah, but it was because they were having a reliability issue with the 34s at the time, right?
Yes, exactly right. Yep.
Yeah. So, that was a smart move, Put a little bit bigger tube in and change the entire sound of the amp, but that's okay.
What's funny about that is there are people who swear by 6550s today.
Oh, no, for sure. Yeah. God, how many years I've been doing this, Mitch, but half the guys back in the day would go, no, gotta be 34s, and the other half of the guys that were playing harder, heavier stuff, no, gotta be 6550s.
Look, Kerry King and Zach Wild, both run 6550s.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't get much heavier than that.
No. And then the old AC/DC heads were 66s, KT66s. Yes.
Right, from the early, they were using 45s under the stage.
Yeah.
And the 100 watters were real early ones.
Yeah.
Probably with 66s also.
Yeah. I remember somebody back in the day when current ones weren't made yet, like new ones weren't made yet, and KT66s were like a couple $100 a piece or something like that because you couldn't get them anymore. Yeah. And he was asked to retube the heads, and he was going, "You can't get these tubes anymore." I mean, what do you mean you can't get the tubes anymore?
And this is AC/DC.
AC/DC, yeah. You just can't get these anymore. Well, why? They just don't make them anymore. Well, what are we going to do? We could put 6550s in or maybe 6Ls or something, but it's going to change the. We don't want the sound of the amps to change. Well, I can find you these tubes, but they're going to be $200 a piece. Well, just go get them, because we don't want the sound of the amps to change.
It's good to have money.
Oh my God, isn't it? Yeah, $800 a head to retube it.
Oh, there you go.
That's wonderful. Well, thankfully they're making new ones, but yeah, man, that's. Thank you for the history of Mitch Colby and Unicord and Korg, and I mean, I really did not know that you were there from day one when it turned into Korg and then the distributor for Marshall. You were there even before they distributed Marshall, so that was.
Oh no, I was with Unicord, and Unicord was the distributor of Marshall at the time.
Oh, but then Korg
bought the company in '85 and bought the whole thing. Basically, mm-hmm. They bought their own distribution out and the right to distribute Marshall in the U.S.
Wow,
came along with it.
That's crazy, man.
Nice, very nice.
I think Unicord got the original. Unicord was the first Marshall distributor in the States, and they got it in 1965.
Wow, really? That early?
Yes, very early.
Wow. Pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. I don't know. I guess I didn't even think about being able to get a Marshall. The Marshalls were available in the United States in '65. I mean, that is such the infancy of the company. You wouldn't think that something that early would already have a distributor in the U.S.
Yeah,
Wow.
Jim was trying to make sales right away.
Man.
Interesting story. I don't know how interesting to the listeners, but the way Unicord got the distribution was, Jim told me this story, is he came to it was either 65 or 66. He came to the U.S. and he had an appointment with a big dealer on 48th Street. And it wasn't Manny's or Sam Ash. It was somebody who I don't even remember the name. And he said he came there. He had an appointment with him and an appointment with Sid Hack, who was the head of Unicord. And so he went to meet the guy in Manhattan who had the store, and the guy didn't show up. He had gone to Las Vegas for a vacation, and I guess he forgot or just snubbed Jim.
Mm-hmm.
And then he said he met with Sid. Sid had the order in his hand, ready to place, and he said, "Okay, you're giving me an order. You're the distributor."
Wow.
Money talks, man. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
That's like the Bill Gates story. You know, that IBM came up the street. They stopped at the one guy's house. He wasn't there. His wife said, "Can't do any deals without my husband here."
Mm-hmm.
They said, "Okay." And they went right to Bill's, and Bill said, "Done." Literally, the guy died a pauper. It could have been Bill Gates.
Wow. Opportunity knocks at the right time sometimes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Where's that music store today?
Right. Not there.
Yeah, nowhere.
Nowhere. Exactly. Nowhere. Man, that is so cool. That is so cool. So you finally retired from Korg Marshall a couple of years ago? 2, 3?
It's 4 now. It's 2010.
Wow, 4 years already. Wow, amazing.
Yeah, time
amazing.
flies.
Totally. And you just could not sit on your laurels, could you?
I'm sitting on my laurel right now. No, I got bored really quick. To be honest, at the end, the business was tough from 2008 to 2010, and it was a stressful situation. Korg was somewhere between a music company and a corporate entity, and they like any business, they want to make money, and our business had changed a lot because the high end of the market crashed, and we had a lot of high end products from Marshall and Korg. And so anyway, 2010, when I quote unquote retired, I figured I'd lay low for a while, at least few months, 6 months, whatever, and maybe play more guitar because I hadn't done that for a while. And then I got a call from Marco Virgilius at Mark Bass, and I had known him because Korg was possibly going to be a distributor.
Oh.
Mark Bass a few years earlier, and he said, "Hey, Mitch, I heard you left. You're interested in working?" I said, "I don't know. I don't want the stress. I'm not interested." He goes, "Well, look, they sell direct in the U.S. only through Guitar Center and Musician's Friend," and he said, "Well, I just need somebody to kind of be an intermediary to make sure stuff's going right in the U.S. and it'll be a part-time job." And I said, "Well, part-time." I said, "Marco, but no stress." He said, "Okay, don't worry, no stress, no stress." So I did that. I agreed to do that, and then I get a call a couple days later from a friend of mine who happens to be have a, I don't know how to say this. Well, he's in charge of a huge collection of vintage amps.
Okay.
In the New York area, and so he says, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm not with Korg anymore." He goes, "Well, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm working on my friend's amp." He goes, "Oh, you work on amps?" I said, "Yeah, I do." He goes, "Well, really, do you like it?" I said, "Yeah, I really do like it. I've been doing it since I'm 13. He goes, "Well, I have a proposal for you. Come on, visit me." So I went out and visited him. He showed me the whole collection, which was unbelievably huge. 500 amps. And he said...
500 amps?
Yeah.
Yeah. He said, "I need to have these working."
Tomorrow?
And he said, "It'll probably take you a couple of years part-time doing it." I said, "Well, all right." Well, so I was doing that, and I agreed to do that, and I'm still doing it 4 years later because bought, in the meantime, they bought about 275 more.
Oh my God!
And yeah, it's insane. So I'm almost done. I think I have about 20 left. So I'm hoping to end that soon because I'm busy with other projects.
Right.
Wow.
So I was doing those two things. Then I was talking to my friend Jim Weider, and I said, Jim, I want to build an amp. I want to sell my own amp. And he said, well, what's it going to be? And I explained, the project. I said, well, I want to have a real Fender-y kind of clean sound and an overdrive channel with separate EQ, nothing shared, and a tube effects loop built in. He goes, that's exactly the amp I'm looking for. Let's do it together. So I said, absolutely. So we worked on that, and then I left Mark Bass because that was getting busy developing that. And then we introduced that about 2 years ago at the amp show out in California, October 2012. And so I started my own amp company.
And it's called?
It's called Colby Amplification.
There you go.
And then subsequent to that, I was developing another amp, Marshall-style amp that can get a bunch of different kind of Marshall sounds. And then I met somebody who's an amp fanatic, and he said, Mitch, my friend owns the Park trademark. I said, oh, really? And he said, yeah, you should talk to him. So anyway, after I was going to do this, I was going to do that, and then somehow I wound up buying it from him.
Buying the Park trademark.
Buying the Park trademark,
yes.
Right. So I've been, so that now is what I'm doing along with the Colby amps, and I'm reissuing this similar amps. I think they're the same because some of them even have new all stock parts to the old Park amps. And so far I've come out with the 45, a 50, and the Park 75.
Oh, yeah.
The first version of the 75. Working on the second version now, the more aggressive one.
The last amp show or guitar show we did together, I only saw two. You had the 75 and either the 45 or the 50.
That was the 45. I didn't have. The thing is, I don't have stock because they're made to order, and I'm currently about 5 months back ordered.
Yeah.
So I didn't have.
And they are replicas down to the knobs because he had the knobs reproduced.
Holy crap!
And they are really unique knobs.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He really went all the way. These are faithful reproductions of the Park amps. They're beautiful. They're beautiful and they sound great.
Now, a question to that is, does that screw with the original amps when they're sales? Like, because you're building them to the spec, but they're new.
Yeah.
So some guy that, you know what I mean?
The originals are still going to have their value.
I guess, yeah. But I mean, seriously though, it's awesome.
Oh.
Yeah. Old amps always hold their value. It seems.
Okay.
I mean, because there are, Fender makes new.
Yeah.
Ham-wired amps, and Marshall makes new ones, and there are plenty of boutique guys out there who make clones of those amps. So yeah, but the old ones seem to still hold their value.
Yeah. Now you had just back to Marshall for a second. You had a bit to do with them coming out with the hand-wired stuff back in the day, and that was probably before the economy fell, and maybe part of what was hard to the top end of the product line was took a hit, but you probably had a lot to do with that.
Well, yeah, because what was happening is we had a lot to do with a lot back when until about 12 years ago or so. Korg USA had a really close relationship with the Marshall guys, and we would strategize and sit for days and just come up with ideas. And one of the ones was to do higher gain amps because guys were modding amps.
Yeah.
You're getting Kasha with a rock mod, I think it was called, and Soldano, and all these guys were modding Marshalls, and we said, well, why aren't we making these things instead of having these guys do it? So that was one of the things. But at the same time, we're saying, but there's interest in these old hand-wired amps, and yeah, definitely, we should do some hand-wired amps, and Marshall's done a bunch of them, different models. We started with that offset. And then they did some different 100 watters, and I think now they do a blues breaker, and so we had we had a lot to do with that.
Yeah,
they had like a.
But you mentioned something about hitting the high end, the market collapsing. The hand wired stuff, I don't think that got hit that bad. what I meant about the high end that we were selling a lot of, we were selling. You can't imagine how many JVM 2000s we were selling.
Really?
The economy crashed. Oh yeah.
Wow.
When we were selling JVMs like crazy. I mean, the JVM was the best-selling Marshall 100-watt head of all time for about 2 years.
Whoa.
Wow. I had no idea.
Yeah, I know. Most people don't know. We sold more 2000s than they ever sold, 1959s. It was crazy. So at the time we were selling so many JVMs, and that was our most expensive amp, and it was the 4-channel one, the most complicated.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
And then when the economy crashed, two things happened. The economy crashed, I think it was around October or something when Lehman went down.
2008,
Yeah.
Yep, and then we went to the NAMM show, and the pound got really strong. So we had to raise prices. So we're raising prices.
As the economy's crapping.
As the economy's crapping, right. And it was kind of the end of the high end of Marshall. And it was really not much we could do about it because costs were going up. And and we were selling, I can't give you the numbers, but you can't imagine how many 4x12s we were selling up until that point.
Wow.
That is crazy.
Yeah. And I've seen pictures of the factory and what they turn out on a daily basis and things, and it's staggering. It was just staggering.
Yeah,
the numbers. Where are all these things going?
I often think that. Like when you hear Fender's numbers just in guitars.
Right. I was thinking that too. Yeah,
they're like, we make 250 guitars a day that go out the door and go, and I'm like, and go where? To the moon? I mean, where is there another planet with musicians that are waiting for these things? Because I'm like, I know a lot of guitar players, but you start doing 250 a day, that adds up at the end of the year.
Well, I think there's some warehousing going on.
Yeah, there's got to be something.
But,
yeah, but they've been doing that for a while. I remember when it was 100 a day, and we thought it was a lot.
Yeah, yeah,
that's crazy.
250, yeah, and the 4x12s, it's like, what, does everybody have one in their garage?
One or more.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's funny. There's a guitar manufacturer that I know, I won't say the name, but when the bottom dropped out, he was telling us that the only thing that kept the company going was
the imports
and their highest end made guitars. Because I guess millionaires know how to budget their money pretty good. It's everybody else's money they know
really
how to screw
doesn't
with.
affect them as much. Yeah, it doesn't.
So they were able to still buy these real high end ones and the import line, but all the middle just was gone.
Yeah.
They said it was like a faucet. Somebody just shut it off.
Yep.
Right. That's exactly what happened to us. But for Marshall, the high end, real high end would have been the hand wired stuff was still selling, and I get not middle of the road, but really we used to get this thing called MI Sales Track, which tracks sales of musical instruments in the U.S. And they do a pretty accurate job, and pretty much amplifiers that are not boutique that were over $1,000 just were not selling.
Wow,
isn't that weird?
It just disappeared.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy. Well, I'm going to bring you back into the future again, because you were saying that you were co-developing your Colby amps when you first started designing them with a gentleman named Jim Weider. And,
that's right.
And I'm thinking your friend Jim was in the room the whole time playing with your new acquisition. Am I right?
Well, he was just changing the strings.
Yes, he was.
And not the whole time, but about 3/4.
Exactly.
How can you resist touching a 50s telly?
Look, I hold no fault there, man.
No, not at all.
Wow. Mitch, why don't you do a little bit of introduction here, because I'm sure our listeners are going to really be excited to have him on with us as well. So go ahead.
Okay, I'm happy to do that. I'm here with Jim Weider. Jim is a fantastic guitar player. He's one of the masters of the Telecaster. And in fact, that's the name of one of his bands. They do basically it's a Roy Buchanan tribute, and he brings other Tele players on, and it's really an amazing Tele fest.
Wow.
And he's got another band called The Wait, which is they do songs from the band. Jim was in the band for 30 years?
Oh, well, not quite.
25?
15.
Oh, 15.
Officially.
Oh, official 15. Anyway, so that's when Robbie Robertson left. Jim replaced him and played with Levon Helm in pretty much everything he did.
Pretty much 30 years with Levon.
Yeah, 30 years with Levon, right.
Wow.
That's what I was thinking. And played at Levon's Barn, which was an amazing venue, which is still around. And Levon's band played there, and Jim was always there. And he also does his own projects, and the most recent was Percolator, which is an amazing album. If you're a guitar player and you like great guitar sounds and playing, you should pick that up. Jim is, like I said, a great player, master of the Telecaster. I don't know how many tellies he's got, 50s tellies and 60 telly, and he happens to be a hell of a nice guy.
Well, all of that and a nice guy too, man.
Well, he strung up his guitar.
Right. Right.
All right, you can keep the 20 I owe you.
You know, he didn't string it up because he was a nice guy. He strung it up because he couldn't wait to play another one. You know, what's this one like? Did you put the pickup in yet, Jim?
No, but it's burning a hole.
Well, we found out the reason why the pickup was taken out was the black wire underneath is hanging by a thread, and it's intermittent.
We actually got sound by taking a cord, plugging it into the amp, and touching it.
Oh, good.
And at the last minute, we actually found that he got it, as he probably told you, the original pickup that was in a case. So fantastic.
Yeah.
That you got that extra little perk, which is important.
Yeah, that is awesome, man. What a score.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I just strung it up, and I can tell it has tone.
Nice. So could we.
Yeah, we could hear it very well.
You were hearing some twinkie.
Oh, yeah. Little telly Twinkie there. That's awesome. So, you know, tell us a little bit about what Jim's doing lately. Maybe you got a couple of new projects happening and some new releases, or what do you want to tell?
Well, you know, some live. I put out with Percolator, the Project Percolator band. I put out 2 live shows. They just were happening, and I played this theater in Mystic, Connecticut, and I kept going back. And the guy recorded us with a different harp player as a guest, James Montgomery, then there's a great harp player, singer Hook Herrera, and it was just so much fun. I said, you know what? It's recorded. Why don't I press it up and put it out? So that's really the last couple of things I've done since Pulse, that album. So I need to come up with a new album for Percolator or a solo record, but that's really what I've done lately, besides the bands that Mitch mentioned, The Weight and the Telecaster show.
Mm-hmm. Any place that we in the tri-state area could see them?
Whereabouts are you located?
Well, we're in Maryland, but you know, New York's not too far at all. I mean, it's a 3-hour drive from here.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Weight's coming up to SOPAC, which is in South Orange, New Jersey, November 21st, and the Weight is also at Terrytown Theater in Terrytown on the 22nd.
Nice.
As far as the Telecaster show, we just finished one in Sellersville, Pennsylvania, that with me, G.E. Smith, and Larry Campbell.
Nice.
That's a must for guitar players. If you guys can catch it the next time we do a show, it's it's a lot of treble.
Don't fear the treble. Don't fear the treble. That's right.
Don't forget your earplugs.
See, right now Telecasters just sound perfect to me because after 40, 50 years of that back
I know where this is going.
You've worn off the high end.
Right, you know?
They sound about right. Yeah.
Yeah, they sound about right.
Wore the high end right off the ear.
That's it.
That's it.
You know, but you know, I'm a big Danny and Roy fan, and you know, for sure.
Yeah. It's a pleasure, and you know, I started it about last year at the Iridium. I had me and Tom Principato, which you probably know from your area.
Good friend, man. Good friend.
Great musician and good guy, and Arlen Roth, and we did a tribute to Roy on his birthday. And then after that, I just started doing them because, you know, they're a lot of fun.
Wow. That's awesome. Yeah, I had no idea you were playing with Tom. Tom's a good bud.
Yeah, he's great. Great musician. So I just kind of changed it up. Each show I've had a different guitar player.
Wow.
As the third guy, you know.
Very, very cool.
Yeah, so that's fun.
I bet. That's great.
And I get to hear the DTB cranked, which Mitch is happy about.
Yeah, that's Jim's signature model that we built. That's the one we introduced 2 years ago.
Right,
Yeah.
that's the dual. What is it?
Dual tone booster.
It's got a really great. I mean, the overdrive channel. I don't need to use any pedals at all. I mean, the gain channel is just amazing. You know, it's like I don't want to use the D word, but it's got great gain like that. You know, it's just fantastic overdrive. That's just a natural driven Fender amp sound with a lot more muscular,
Nice.
and then a great clean channel. So it's everything I've always wanted, and in an amp with channel switching which is very difficult to make. But we did it. We're still friends. 3 years later, we're still tweaking.
That's true, actually. We've been on the constant quest for parts, and with Park, I've really done that quest and looking for old Pyre and Iskra resistors and mustard caps and chiclet caps. But in that quest, I found stuff to put into the DTB, so that changes a little bit also sometimes if we find something that sounds better than what we've been using.
Yeah, we always upgrade it a little, but it's been a fun process, and the challenge is just trying to get there. You know.
Nice. Well, I mean, Mitch, you couldn't be working with a better guy, even though he's got no treble left in his ears. But you know, that's.
Well, I still have the treble, but he's got everything else.
Right. No,
that's and the amazing thing is, he's always right.
I wish my wife would say that.
When he said, Jim will say, you know, I think I hear a little bit of the upper mids. There's this little thing, and I'm going, I don't know. It doesn't matter. And then I'll listen more carefully, and there it is.
Wow.
Yeah.
It matters.
Man, that must be a treat to work with someone like him on developing an amp. You know, I've not been that fortunate. You know, I've had to rely on mostly myself, and then have somebody play it and like it or wish it was just a little different here or there. But to actually sit down and work with someone in that capacity, man, that must be awesome, Mitch. Really.
Well, and what's also great, it is awesome. And the other thing is, what we do is the amp is in the same spot, in the same room, with the same cabinet, with the same guitar, and the same player every time we try a part.
One resistor at a time, if you can imagine the beating that is.
Yeah.
I can.
It's amazing what you can hear when everything is steady like that.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing that changes. I mean, the room is the room. So
right, it's a constant reference.
Exactly, and that's rare.
Same cables, same everything.
Until the cleaning lady comes in and moves everything. You come in the next day, what the hell happened?
That's when you got to take a
Well, if you see this place, you wouldn't say that.
No.
Oh, it's like my shop.
It's a complete insane asylum.
Oh, he's got like 30 amps in here, and who knows how many guitars and cases and pedals like you can't believe, and tube stereo. He's got a Macintosh over here.
Oh, nice.
This is a great room.
See,
organ.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
But Mitch, from what you're telling me, he's never going to be able to move any one of those amps or guitar cases or anything until you finally put the last screw in the amp and decide you're not going to change it anymore.
You're right. The reflections will change.
That's right. That's right. It's like being in a control room, It's
yeah, man.
Who moved the
I'm really
desk?
happy with the amp. For whether if you're a Tele player or a Fender player or a Gibson player, it just has a real organic, great cleans, ridiculous great cleans, but the gain channel is like, I don't need any more pedals. I have only reason I have some pedals on my board is different shows I do, depending if it's percolator, like a left brain show, or the weight. I'll use a univibe kind of vibe thing, and of course, overdrive pedals like the King of Tone and different pedals in the clean channel sound different than your gain channel. But the majority of the time, really like 80% of the time, I just use the distortion in the amp.
Nice.
It's very organic and very pure.
Telephone.
Hello. Laszlo, I can't talk. I'm doing an interview over Skype. All right, Laz.
That's perfect.
You guys want to say hello to Laszlo?
Hey, Laszlo.
Hey,
What's up?
Laszlo, good to talk to you.
Good to hear from you.
He's a guy who constantly calls me and tells me to play a Gibson, so I just told him to play a Fender. You know? He's been telling it to me for 50 years. I've known him that long.
And he still hasn't given up? Oh,
he's
my
persistent.
No,
God.
he doesn't give up.
Oh, he's got to give it. Yeah, that's true about a lot of the guys who have bought the DTB.
Mm-hmm.
Is that I'll get an email saying, "Yeah, Mitch, I sold off a bunch of my overdrive pedals.
Oh, nice.
I have this amp." So
That was the first thing Mike Pierre, Analog Mike, was worried about.
and it's coming true.
And I worked with him on the King of Tone pedal, but he goes, "Oh my God, this thing sounds good."
Right. You're killing my pedal business. Well, I'm
Not gonna happen.
That ain't gonna happen.
No, that's
People want their toys. That's for
People
sure.
like little toys.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and pedals are great. You know, they're, granted, there's some expensive ones, but a lot of them are just impulse buys, and people got a couple $100, burning the hole in their pocket, and go, "Oh, this is a cool new boutique pedal," and there you go. There
They
you go.
like it for a couple months, and then they get rid of it.
and get something else, or keep it and get something else.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Put it
a lot,
in the collection.
a lot of the guys I know are keeping them. So.
Yeah.
I should have kept some. I sold when I had a Klon, original one.
Yeah.
I sold it to Mike. He said, "Hey, you want to sell that?" I said, "Yeah, I don't use it. You can have it." Now what do they go
Mike?
for? No, not Mike. I sold it to old Benedetto.
I could have gotten it.
No, it was before I knew you.
Yeah,
But I don't like them anyway.
but Jim, you wouldn't need it. You wouldn't need it anymore, Jim.
I don't need it. I
That's
don't
right.
like them anyway.
It's a pretty transparent thing, but yeah, nowadays people are paying a lot of money for a pretty transparent pedal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're crazy. But I mean, he did the reissue of it now, and there's people knocking them off nowadays.
Sometimes when I hear that, though, I go, "What do you mean it's transparent?" And they go, "Well, it doesn't add any color to your tone." I'm like, it should be doing something.
for that kind of money, it should do something.
When I hit that button, I should actually either be blown back a little bit. There should be something that goes on.
You want to sound like Jeff Beck as soon as you press a note. Right?
Right.
Exactly.
Ain't a pedal in the world, man.
No, it's not. It's not in the pedal, bro.
No.
I want to get some goofy armbands and white boots.
There you go.
That's what he was wearing last time I saw him.
Fingers. It's all in the hands.
It is,
Yeah.
and it's amazing. For $1,500, you hit the button and you can't hear anything different.
I laugh at that. I'm like, I better feel like I went out into space.
It better want me to have a cigarette afterwards.
Yeah.
Jesus.
It's tough.
That's a whole different world. That's a whole different show.
Yes, it is.
So, but back to Mitch's amps, we don't need no stinking pedals.
That's right.
So, congratulations, Mitch, and how lucky are you to have Jim as a friend and to work with on this amp? Man,
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's so cool, and that he's a nice guy, even better.
Yeah.
Man, I'm gonna wrap here, but I got to thank you for taking the time and really walking us through, the history of Mitch Colby in the music business. Like I said, it's a name not a lot of people know. I mean, the people that are in the business know who the hell Mitch Colby is.
Yeah.
But now a lot more people are going to know who it is, and they're going to get turned on to his really cool new line of amps.
I would have ran to work every day.
Working.
I would have been
what
early
he did
every day. Because just that history is just crazy.
Oh yeah. But I mean, it is a business too, and there's business aspects.
Of course.
It's not all fun, Mick. It's not all fun.
I know what no fun is.
You do. Yes, you do. You do.
That's what I do every day.
But man,
it was more fun than not. I got to say that.
Good.
It was great.
Man, that is so good to hear. I know people that have come out of the industry
and just hate it
and won't talk about it.
Well, we had we had a guy we wanted to interview, and I'm not talking about it.
Not talking about it. I am done with it. Not talking. I mean, no good memories. I'm not talking about it. I'm done. It's like Wow, dude.
Oh man, that's bad.
Whoa, that's bad. It's like
that's a bad Christmas party.
That's a guy that needs a do-over. You know, and you don't get him. Well, maybe you do. I don't know.
Telecast to show it out earplugged.
Oh, that's a good one, Jim. My God, I'm going to leave it there. Mitch, thank you so very, very much for being on, and you know, thanks for bringing Jim in as well. That was such an added bonus, man. And you know, we may have to get Jim on someday just to talk about the years with the band and everything else. That would be so much fun. Jim, would you be willing to do that someday?
Yeah, sure. Maybe we come down your way or something. It might be good to do.
Do a Skype one.
We can do Skype, yeah.
Oh yeah, we'll do a Skype one, and if we will come to see you if you're anywhere in the drivable area.
Yeah, we can bring it to you.
Oh, for sure, we'll do that. But I just want to see the show too. I'll bring earplugs, but I do want to see the show.
Well, come on, just check out my website, jimweider.com, and see where I'm playing, and please give me a holler.
We'll have it up.
Oh yeah,
we'll put that up, and we'll put that up with Mitch's.
We'll put all Mitch's information up.
Yep.
Mitch, give us your website.
Well, there's colbyamps.com and parkamplifiers.com.
Awesome. We get 2 for the price of 1 here.
There you go.
You hear that?
Yeah.
And mice.
Wow. Is that just the raw guitar?
That's the raw guitar.
Wow, that's got some spank to it, man.
That's some old 50s wood.
Yeah. Wow. Well, gentlemen, I'm going to let you go have some fun with the wood.
Yeah.
That didn't sound so good.
That's why I said it.
Thanks, Jeff.
Ooh, now we're throwing some tone.
That's
Guys,
awesome.
go have some fun. Thank you so very, very much. Mitch, all the luck in the world, my friend, with both Colby amps and with Park. Jim, thank you so much for being on with us, and we're going to have you on again, and we'll come see you guys, and we'll come see Jim play through Mitch's amps.
Absolutely.
So
beautiful. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, thank you very much for taking the time, man. Have a great rest of the day.
And you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye. So there you have the story. The story of Mitch Colby and his history in the music business, and a little bit of history of Marshall and Korg, and
we could have done
GW Unicorn.
We could have done 5 hours on him. I can't even imagine a roster of people that he's met in the years that he was at that company.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I mean, that has to be absolutely insane. And that's why, obviously, sitting there with a legend of a guitar player, just like 2 guys hanging out, I would be beside myself.
It's so funny because we were setting this up, and he had given me his Skype address, and then he said, "Wait, I think I may be over my friend's house. I'll give you a different address if I'm going to be there." So 5 minutes before the show, he turns up at his friend's house, Jim Weider of the band, and just I'm at Jim's house. We'll Skype from here. So,
that is just crazy. I mean, wow.
Yeah. Well,
and he did 15 years with the band
and 30 with Levon.
Yeah,
man. God bless Levon.
And then he's doing these gigs. He's got Arlen Roth, and he's got G.E. Smith.
Mm-hmm.
And
Tom Principato.
I mean, how does that happen? I mean, that's just crazy. That's so much talent. How do you even get it in the building?
They're all crazy Telecaster guys, and they just tend to gravitate together,
Yeah, I guess, man.
It's the Don't Fear the Treble Club.
Well, I tell you, that was a pleasant surprise because not only, I mean, like I said, we could have done 5 hours. With Mitch.
Yeah,
I mean, absolutely.
I'm sure there's a few stories there that
he was touching on the edge there, and I wish we could have given more, but we had.
Right.
When you have that guy sitting in a room with him, you got to go, okay, well, we got to divide the time a little bit here. And
we'll talk to Jim for a little while.
Yeah.
That was very nice. Jim didn't have to come in. There was a bonus for us, and thank you, Jim. Thank you, Mitch, for having Jim come in.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, that was great. So, another fun one.
Yes.
Another fun one.
And before we leave, though, we want to make sure everybody knows, click through that banner that's on our website, the Amazon banner.
Amazon, yes.
And just click through it, bookmark it, And there's a lot of Christmas stuff coming up, man. You can buy. Amazon's great. They ship right to your house, and it's barely any cost. And there's no cost to you. We get a couple shekels back on it.
true.
So that's awesome. And that helps keep the lights on.
Yeah, can you buy Amazon Women?
I don't think you can.
No. Damn.
No. You could probably buy a cardboard cutout, though.
Oh, cool. I'll go look.
Or the movie. They've got all kinds of stuff out there.
Right.
Yeah. And make sure iTunes like us out there. 5 stars. We love the 5 stars. Just give us comments. Throw comments at us. If you want to hear something on the show, throw a comment at us.
Give us an idea.
We got... You got a Rolodex that's insane. So we're going to be talking to tons of people. And I know you guys are loving it because we're only getting good compliments, and that's awesome.
Yeah, and
thank you for that.
Thanks for loving our work.
Oh, it's just been so cool.
Yeah, awesome.
I tell you what. So until next time, my friend.
You are
Mr. Green Jeans,
aka
Mick Marcelino, and you are.
That just leaves me to be Jeff Bober.
And we are saying
onward.
Be sure and follow the show on Twitter @AmpsandAxis. Also, make sure you like the show on Facebook. For news, comments, and everything else, visit the webpage ampsandaxiscast.com. Thanks for listening.